So currently, Palestine Action has 16 political prisoners, 11 of whom are on remand before trial, and 5 of whom have been sentenced for taking action against a weapons factory in Glasgow, and they've been sentenced to 12 months in prison for occupying the roof of that factory and disrupting the production of parts for Israeli weapons to be used in the genocide of Gaza. 10 of those prisoners are the Filton 10, who were detained for a week without charge under terrorism legislation. This is the first time that this has happened to us in Palestine Action, and they were held in solitary confinement and interrogated day after day after 6 of them broke into a weapons factory owned by Israel's biggest weapons producer, Elbit Systems. And once inside, they had destroyed drones, the same drones that we've seen being used in Gaza, that were playing the sounds of women and children crying to lure Palestinians near to those drones so that they could kill them. That's what they destroyed, and as a result, 6 of them were arrested on the scene. 4 were later rounded up by armed police and police wearing balaclavas. 1 person had 4 guns pointing towards his head while being arrested in Yorkshire in England, and he was completely compliant when he was being arrested. They've all now been charged with non-terror offences and are being held on remand, clearly showing the state's abuse of the terrorism legislation in this case. Another activist, Francesca, is being held in Wakefield, and she is accused of taking action to stop an American weapons factory from producing parts for Israeli missiles and fighter jets, again, during the ongoing genocide in Gaza, and for taking action against banks which are financing and profiting from the destruction of Palestinian communities. All of this has come at a culmination of a 4-year direct action campaign, during which we know that last year we've uncovered documents showing that the Attorney General's office was lobbied by the Israeli government when they discussed Palestine Action cases, and they discussed the defences that we are allowed to use in court. And since then, in the past couple of years, we've been massively restricted and stopped from relying on lawful excuses, such as acting to save lives in Palestine and acting to prevent the greater crime. And on the topic of John Woodcock, as has already been mentioned, his vested interests in protecting the Israeli arms industry and in being funded by Leonardo, one of the targets of our campaign. In his report, he also spoke to Elbit Systems, our main target, and they explained the detrimental impact that we were having on the Israeli weapons maker in this country. The Israeli weapons maker who make weapons which are also marketed as battle tested on Palestinians, as they're using Gaza as a laboratory to develop these weapons. It's very clear that we have now faced a massive increase in a crackdown on Palestine Action following Lord Walney's report, and also following Labour coming into government, which is relatively surprising. And Richard Barnard, a co-founder of Palestine Action, was just recently charged under Section 12(1)(a) under the Terrorism Act for 2 speeches that he made in October last year when he was calling for direct action against Elbit Systems. So we're seeing this increased escalation in a crackdown on Palestine Action activists, which is clearly being used to protect the Israeli weapons industry, which is complicit in a genocide in Gaza. And I think the links between the Palestine Action prisoners and the environmental prisoners is clear. They are being locked up by the same system, which is putting the industry of the oil and arms industry before the rights and freedom of its own citizens. And that's why it's imperative that we work together to resist that system.